Hi everybody. Okay, let's get started. We're going to open the file, and as you'll see, it comes in a big grouping. So what we have to do is we have to move everything away. So I'm going to grab the pattern paper, I'm going to grab the box top, and I'm going to grab the inside box. And I seem to do that a lot. Okay, those are the three pieces I have right now on the side. This is the first piece I'm going to cut. Now let me explain a few things to you. What I do with my patterns is I like to label exactly what that piece is so that I know. It also makes it easier to make sure you've got all your pieces cut and just kind of where things go. I also label what type of material it needs to be cut out of. This here will not cut out of your cardstock, okay? I've got it set on a no cut, so it does not cut out. It's just for your own information. Now, these are score lines, or perforated as they call them in the program. I designed them so that they can be just cut on the cut method and not on the perforated method. I'm really just a lazy type person, and I don't want to put it back in the machine and let it run through two times, one time on cut, one time on perforated. So by doing it this way with this line, it makes it a perforated cut. So I don't have to run it through twice. Now with this big piece, this is a 12-inch high piece. So because it is, what I want to do is make sure that the top line and the bottom line are exactly correct in the cutting space. So in order to do that, I go up to a line and I click center on page. That way I'm sure this is perfect, this will never go off the page, and this will never go off the page. So then you can go over to your cut settings, make sure you choose cardstock. And I have never had a problem doing any of my cardstock with the standard settings that are in the silhouette. So then what you want to do is make sure you've got everything set and send to silhouette. Now I've already cut out all my pieces, so I'm not going to send it to silhouette right now. But you can go ahead and cut that piece if you'd like right now, or you can wait and do them all later. Once you've got this piece done, of course this is very simple. You're just going to grab another one, move it over, put your other piece of cardstock on your mat. Now, one thing I want to point out, I leave again a little bit of margin there and a little bit of margin there. That way I make sure that this didn't end up off the page when it runs through the machine. Because when you're building a 3T item, any tiniest space will throw your whole project out the door. So I always try and leave just some space to be safe. Now cut that piece and send it to silhouette. And you're going to do the exact same thing with the other cardstock piece. And send to silhouette. Now your cardstocks are all done. Now onto the pattern paper. Now this is not the pattern paper I'm using. But one thing I've done is, because you do have a lot of pieces on here, and this is nothing compared to some of the other 3D artwork that I've created. I like to make sure that my pattern paper looks pattern paper. So what I do is I fill it with just the standard patterns that are in the Silhouette store. And of course click on it and fill. You know, you could choose whatever you want to choose, just so you know it's not plain cardstock. And it just gives me a reminder, oh wait, put the pattern paper in, not cardstock, and you're good to go. So once you've done that, you must go over to your cut settings, and you have to go down here and choose pattern paper and change your settings accordingly to what you need. Change your blade here. I always do my pattern paper on a 3, but make sure you change your blade in your machine, and then send to silhouette. Okay, so we've actually wrapped up all the cutting we need to do. So what we're going to do at this point is we're going to close the silhouette machine out. So of course close the file. I don't need to save it. Close my silhouette program. Okay, so here's all the pieces that you should have in order to assemble your box. Now, some of the suggestions that I have are of things that you're going to need for assembly. There's a few options of how you want to close your seams up and put your box together. So I'll give you the options that I choose from time to time. My absolute favorite one to do is my gun, my adhesive gun. That is my advanced tape glider from Scotch. I absolutely love it. I use it over and over and over for a ton of things, including gift wrapping at Christmas time. The other thing you could use is, of course, glue. But my suggestion with your glue is that you use a quick dry adhesive glue. You have to be very careful with it. It's not one of my favorite things to use when doing a box, but you can use it. The other thing is using score tape. Okay, score tape is a very thin tape. It's sticky on both sides, but when you stick it down to your cardstock, okay, this side is sticky, and then once you get it adhered to the cardstock, you peel off the outside layer and stick your other piece of cardstock to it. Those are your 3 options. The other thing to keep in mind is if you're using glue, I suggest you have a few paper clips. Okay, because when you're putting the glue on, you want it to adhere and dry, so I put a paper clip on it and then move on to the next area. And by the time I get all done fixing my thing, that's dry, but it's held in place. Okay, so those are your options. I'm going to try and use glue to show you, but mostly I'll be using my advanced tape glider. Okay, so those are the options we have to do. Now, the other thing I suggest is I always glue or adhere my pattern paper to the box before I assemble it. It's always much easier to stick to a hard surface than not. So I'm going to grab my first piece, oops, which is this. This is the front of your box, okay? And it's going to go this way. So your fold is on the right. So you want to put your pattern paper centered right there on your project. So this is where I love my tape glider. I take my pattern paper, which I cannot get off the other one, and I just run my tape glider down like this, and as you can see, I have sticky. It's really sticky, and I put it right on here. This is designed to be centered, so we have a little bit of the box mat around the outside. Now, as some of you may have noticed, and I kind of skipped that step, I fold it before I put the paper on. I do not do the edges, I just fold it. And the reason I do that is so that I can see where the center of this is going to be. Okay, so by doing that, I've got the fold to go by, and I make sure that it's in the center. And then you can do whatever you want. You can go and seam up your seams, or you can put your binding on the other piece. Okay, so here we have these 2 seams that need to get closed. So I'm going to grab my paper clips and my glue, and I'm pretty sure my glue, because this glue is always stuck, is stuck like it shouldn't be, but it always does. So I've got my trusty needle that I use to unjam it. Now I'm going to put glue on the back side and do not use a lot. I can't get any out of here. Okay, so now I've got my glue, and what I'm going to do is fold this in, and this is where I use a paper clip. And I put the paper clip on like that, and I do the same thing on this side. Put the paper clip on, and that way it kind of holds it in place. And if you have any mess of glue, you might want to wipe it up. I did get a little too much on there. And there. So that's making my box top. The one advantage with glue is you still have some sliding options. Okay, there's the top of the box. And now I have to put the binding. So we're going to put the binding on the end. And again, I pull out my tape roller, and I usually run 2 strands on there. Okay. Now this again, I have folded it so that I can see where it should fall and what is in the center. And there's my binding for the side. Now we have to fold all of this bottom base and make sure it's folded, because we have to seal it up on the 2 ends. Again, the 4 corners need to be glued or taped or however you want to do it. I'm going to glue these. So of course I need my paper clips. And just make sure everything is lined up and sticking really well. And you're done with your glue, so of course close that up, put that back, and I'll put my paper clips away. A nice clean area to work is always a benefit. Okay, so now what we have to do is we have to put this box, which is your bottom base, and that fits in, and this is the key to this project. If this is not in the right area, you will have issues. So you want to make sure that it's folded and that it's in the right position. If it is not, you will have a problem. And we're not gluing this edge. So therefore, it is a little tricky to make sure that it's lined up. You want to line it up on the bottom. And so down here, that's facing you, you want to line it up there. And you want to line it up in the corner edge. Because once that's done and we put the other pieces together, it lines up perfectly. So what we're going to do is glue this on first. Now, this is where I use my score pal. I have the big score pal. And I use this because it gives me an advantage. And I turn it upside down. Because it has a ledge, it makes it much easier to glue this in place where it needs to be. So I will actually glue it up against the bottom and against the side. That way I know it's squared off and it'll be a perfect fit. Okay, so as you've got it glued, now you can use glue, you can use your tape runner, you can do whatever you want there. But as you'll notice, I still have my paper clips on here also. I haven't taken them off yet. It doesn't affect the gluing, and it's always safer to have them on there longer. Now, that's all glued in place, and as you see, we don't glue the binder, and the reason being is that's awfully hard to get into. So I actually leave it open, but if you chose to use and close the binder, you can, but don't do that now. Okay, so that is all set. Now I'm going to pull my paper clips off here because I'm sure that's dry. Now we have to glue the top in. Now this slides in. Hopefully you can see this in the camera. It slides in place and it fits very well in that corner. And you want to make sure it's all in that corner so that when you fold your book over, it folds over and meets it with no problem. See how nice that looks? So now we're going to glue in the top. Okay? The easiest way to do that is I do use my tape runner. And I go along here. I go along here. And one more here. Now make sure you're not where you shouldn't be. Like this is easier this way. Ooh, never had that in my tape runner. Well, if you have that problem, just open your runner up and tighten her up and then run it again. Okay, so now we're all set there. Now, again, I'm going to want to make sure that this is square. So I'm using my score pad again. I'm going to push it in there so that it's correct. Make sure the box is completely flat in the corners so there's no buckling. And if you don't have a score pad, I wouldn't worry about it. Okay, now I'm going to take the two paper clips, which I almost forgot about, off the top. Close up my box. And there's your box. And it looks so nice. Now we get to decorate it. And we get to put cards in it that we've made. So what we're going to do is I'm going to stop the video here and I'll come back and decorate it for you. Okay, it's time to decorate the box. Now, to do this box, I didn't go through and make all of this right now. This is literally all from my stash. We all have stash. Unfortunately, we all have a lot of scrap, whether it be flowers, leaves, accents, rhinestones, butterfly, ribbon. We've all got it. So all I did was went through my stash and found what I could use to decorate the outside of the box. So what I'm going to do is kind of decorate this, show you how I do it. I'm sure everybody's going to have their own little flair. So let's get started. Okay, the ribbon, not going to use that right now. This would be last. All of this I'm going to move aside because I have green leaves here, as you can tell, for my roses. The thing is, I am really picky about it, and I don't like just cut out leaves. So what I'm going to do is bring my little trusty memories mat over here, and I'm going to do some distressed ink on them and curl them a little bit. So I thought what I would do is show you a couple different ways to do it. This distressed ink, I do love it, but I also love my chalk. So I'm going to do a couple leaves in both ways so that you guys can see how it's done. I don't care about my mat. So it gets dirty, it gets yucky, and it makes a mess, but I love it. Okay, I don't know if you can see that real well, but you can see it just gives it some tone and doesn't make it look so bland. You can also use chalks on it. I have a couple different versions. I also have a new one, but I didn't bring that out. And if you do chalks, they're messier. They come off easier. But you can kind of see it just puts a shade on it to look better. For this particular one, I can tell already I don't like the chalks. So I'm going to put that all the way, and I'm just going to distress all of these. I think the color tones look better with this paper. So I'm just going to do that. And you see there's no rhyme or reason to anything that I'm doing. I'm just kind of going over, brushing my edges of it just to give it some tone. I hate just glued on leaves. I'm really, and I think that's from my tool painting background. My husband will often make comments about things I make. Where's the shading? I don't see any shading. It's vinyl. We can't shade vinyl. But he thinks, you know, shading is my thing. And when it comes down to paper, it is. Okay, so my leaves are all done. So much better. And, you know, I take this in, use a little alcohol on it, rub it, and get most of my ink off. Here's my leaves. They're finished. And you can even do some, this butterfly is like a little seafoam color, and it will show up very nicely on this box. But you can even take your butterfly and just put a little darker color on his edges and leave the center lighter. I don't know if you can see that real well there, but it just put a little bit of lightness on it. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to get ready to see how we want to do the box. Okay, and I don't like my leaves when they are also flat. So I just kind of do a little curling with whatever tool you've got, and you could just put it under and pull. Put it under and pull. And you can also curl it on the side. You know, however you want to do it. Curl it up, curl it down. Whatever turns your fancy. That's what makes these things unique. That's why they also can't be duplicated exactly, which is what I love about paper crafts. Where vinyl, you don't have that. Anybody can pretty much duplicate your vinyl. Okay, so I've got those curled. Now the best way to do this is kind of lay out your box how you want it. I know that I want those there with some leaves stuck around them, and I'll put them like that, and then maybe do one here and put this one in here. So there's one coming out the bottom, the back. Okay, then I also have these little strandy things, these little flourishes, and I might just put the flourish coming out here. And the one thing you have to decide is, I like my bow coming out here, so make sure that you leave room for your bow. Like this particular leaf may not go that way, and you see me, I'm just shifting, moving things around and kind of getting an idea where I want it to go. And then these things are just little accents, and I do curl these too, just to give it some more accent. These are actually cut with my Spellbinders dies. I don't know which set, I'd have to look it up. But I have a ton of them in my stash, already cut, already chalked, ready to go. And they are just a very nice accent to your boxes. And then maybe I'll put my butterfly here, or have it coming off the branch, and then just kind of put it all down and glue it down. And it just makes it really nice. And then I'll use some of my rhinestones to put a little piece coming out of here. Okay, so let's get this glued down in place and go from there. I do like my butterfly there, so we're going to leave the butterfly there. And then we're going to glue it all down. Of course, your leaves must, anything on the bottom has to get glued down first. So I'm going to bend this one a little bit, and I'm going to bring my glue out. Any kind of glue, you can even use a glue gun, because it's just paper. And I'll put some glue on the back, not a lot. This is a leaf, just glue it down. And that's why I angle the ends up, so that it sticks, but the leaf doesn't get totally glued down. And I know I'm going to need a leaf there. Now, for your roses, this is the part, roses have some weight to them. So usually when you're going to do a rose, I will end up using my mounting tape. And I bought this years and years ago. It was nice because it was a big, huge roll, and I could just use whatever I needed, cut it off. It wasn't set to a size. Now I'm going to cut that piece in half. I'm going to stick that on the bottom of my rose. Peel off the sticky part. These roses, of course, are all made out of paper. They're glittered, they've got some spray on them, and I will do a video on how to make them. You can also find lots of them on YouTube. But they can't go on cards in the mail. They're much too high. But they can definitely go on 3D boxes. Okay, and I'm going to put the other one on my other rose. And that leaf's not glued down. And because I just put my finger in that, and there's my other rose. Okay, now let's put the leaf around that rose. That really was too much glue. And I think I need another leaf up here. So let's put that down. Okay, Now we're going to glue the butterfly. Now, I do curl the butterfly's wings. I think it looks a little bit more proportional. These were butterflies I picked up at Michael's. They're kind of a fabric-y type butterfly, and I love them. They make a very nice accent without being paper. And then I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on there, and I'm going to glue her on the stem. Now we need to put some accents in here. I also think we need to bring in a little lighter color. So I just tip the end of that and just shove it in anywhere it wants to shove. And because you're using regular glue and not using your hot glue gun or anything like that, you do have to let this sit up for a while. And I'm going to put one of those. And you notice there's no placement. I am just laying this out wherever I want to shove something. Just remember to leave room for your bow. My bow is going to go down here. And I need another white one, and this one needs to be curled, so I'll use this one. Okay. Now I will not put my silver on here until, or not my silver, my sparkly little rhinestone stuff, until I get everything done. Now as you notice, I like the way that looks. I'm hoping you can see that. But I don't want to do any more until I get my bow on. And I have extra supplies over here that I did not use. I had some extra leaves. I might throw them on when I get all done. So now we need to get the bow on. Okay, now we're going to attach the ribbon. I've just done a simple, small little ribbon here that I'm going to put on the box before I continue to decorate. Now what I usually like to use for a ribbon, since I don't want any height on here because I want it to fit underneath the rose, I'm going to find just one of the sticky dots and put that on there and stick the bow on the box. And then fish your tails, kind of wiggle it around, organize it. You don't want your tails too long because you don't want it to interfere with sitting. So I've trimmed those off. Now we've got a nice bow on there, and now I can work in the other stuff that I want to work into the box. Okay, so I may want to use this and this, which is my leaf. And I'm going to put this leaf down here, just underneath. And I want to put this little green jobber down here. Now I actually think I'd like to have the white one. I had one white one I did not use, so I'm going to put that down there because it needs to be brightened up a little bit. And there's that. Make sure you don't go over the edge of the box in case someone wants to stand it up. You don't want any of that interfering. Now I'm going to use some of my little crystal thingy jobbers, I don't know what they're called, to just add a little color accent, little glisten to it. Now these are actually Michael's that I got there, and you just peel them off. I cut it at a spot where I knew it looked like it would be okay, and I'm just going to peel it off. And I'm going to slide that under there. And then it comes out, whoops, comes out on the end. You can see how that shines. And I think we need one going up here. So I'm going to look for what would work and cut it out of my strand. Okay, we have another spot here. I'm just going to cut it fits right there. And I'm going to peel that apart. And yes, it sticks on your finger. A lot like vinyl does if you've done any vinyl. But it's not as sticky. And I'm going to put that coming out from under this leaf. Just kind of let it roll the way it wants to. I know you can't see that very well in the video, but I'm trying, there. You can see how I just put it coming out of there and out of the bottom. Okay, so now you can give it like this, or you can just put a thank you tag up here if you'd like. Or you could put a tag over here that tells them what kind of cards are inside. So if they stand it up, they can read it from there. I've done another one here that I've put tags on. There's a tag on the front there that says happy birthday cards, and one on the end that says birthday cards. Those were both written, by the way, in the machine. Ooh, that's got a terrible glare. In the machine, with a pen in the Silhouette machine. So that gives you an idea of just how to decorate. Hope that this video was fun for you. I hope you had fun making the boxes. I hope that you can fill it up with cards for your friends and family. My suggestion is be sure to use scraps from the box, from your cardstock, your papers, and make it all match. It makes an absolutely gorgeous set. I don't have any to show you one done because I've given them all away. Well, I hope this helped you out. Have a good day.